Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome along. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on what is going to be hopefully a very interesting and exciting session celebrating our awards. So you may have been on the call in the last couple of weeks with our School Librarian of the Year Secondary and also the School Librarian of the Year Primary. But this afternoon we are so pleased to welcome Kate and Sarah, who are the Community Award winners. And we also have a representative from Reading Cloud who sponsored the Enterprise Award. So, as I say, Kate Murphy, who is actually quite close to the SLA office in Swindon, they are local to the office that we're won the award this year. And so, without further ado, I will pass over to you, Kate, and you can inspire us with everything that you've been doing because it looks very exciting. Thank you.
Hello, hi, thanks, Helen. I've got Sarah Day as well, who is the librarian at Ridgeway School, as my right-hand woman today. She's been doing the festival for as long as I have. I have got a PowerPoint. It's lovely to see you, Joffrey. It's lovely to see everybody, but Joffrey is one of our lovely authors who has been very supportive of our festival along the way. So we have been asked to talk to you about how we run our literature festival. So who are we? Let me just see if it's going to actually go. No, it's going to. Hang on. I knew the technical issues would happen. Hang on. Bear with me.
It's fine. Don't worry at all. So good. You're with friends.
We're with friends, yes. There, hopefully that has. Can you all see that one?
It's not full screen at the minute. Just yes. There we go.
Is it going to go backwards for me? So there we go, yes. We are the Swindon Youth Festival of Literature and we're in our 16th year this year. I know there's lots of inspiring things happening in libraries, school libraries all around the country, and we have been asked by the SLA this year to talk about our festival because we have been running for 16 years and we did win the Community Award this year from the SLA, which we were very proud to win. Just a quick note about it, if anybody is thinking about nominating themselves or asking their head to nominate them or anything like that, please do it. We nominated ourselves with a little nod from the SLA saying, this is the sort of thing that is exactly what the Community Award is about. We were up against some stiff competition and we were very pleased to win it. It's been a lovely thing to win and it's got us noticed. It's got us noticed around our schools, in our community and around businesses as well. So it's just been a lovely thing. So please think about nominating yourself and going for it. And also, it's a lovely evening. We had a very nice evening at the Hilton, and Sarah was there as well. So please chip in, Sarah, along the way, if anything you think I have missed out or anything you want to add as well. So I am the coordinator of the festival, but there is a lovely team that make it happen every year. These are the librarians. It is a librarian-led festival. That's a really important point to make. Although I'm the coordinator, it is the librarians in each school who host their authors. We don't just book authors because they've got new books out. They book their authors because they know what will work in their schools. And we're always mindful to buddy up new librarians with librarians that have been doing it for a while. And our project objective is to celebrate reading, writing, and creativity. We go out of our way to make sure that we do lots of different things in our week-long festival. And it's all about the reading, writing, and creativity that we can bring to students, thousands of students actually, in 1 year. And one of the most important, if not the most important, I think Sarah will be nodding away on this one, is that it is free of charge to every student. It means that there is inclusivity across the schools. There is no barrier to being part of it. You'll see by all the events that we have what the range of things that students can attend, but it is all free of charge, and that is one of the most important things for us. And I think it's what helped us in regards to the Community Award, because it is being part of the community and being inclusive. Those are the 12 schools that are involved. Those are the 12 secondary schools. And there are about 60 primary schools involved as well, because we do primary event as well. But those are our lovely 12 schools, which those 12 librarians that you just saw are the librarians in. So how do we make it happen? How do we make the magic happen? Our festival is in November. It's been that way for the last 16 years. We chose November. It's usually the first or second week of November, depending on when half term is. We chose November because it fitted well into the school calendar at the time. Although we are finding that at the moment that might not be quite the case anymore. Prelims seem to have changed slightly. If you are thinking of hosting a festival in any way, whether it was a week-long one or a couple of days or just even one big day, bonanza one, think very carefully about your school calendar. Look at your inset days. We had a terrible moment last year where 2 of our schools actually had inset days on one of our main events. So make sure that you get it on your school calendar and cleared by SLT really quickly if you do want to choose a date. Choose a date that doesn't include things like children in need. That's always been something that we've always fought against, or anything else big that's happening in your school, a big sporting event, open evenings, and big award ceremonies that authors might be going to as well is another thing to try and spot, because you just won't get them. You won't get your authors if they're all off at a lovely award ceremony. So choose your date carefully. As I say, we choose November. But although we say it's November, it takes a year of planning to get there. And I know that sounds quite ominous and quite arduous, but it is drip feeding all the way through until you get to that big week where everything is actually happening. The budget. This is one of our biggest questions. How do we afford it? So we make an application to the Swindon Association of Secondary Heads, SASH, every year. Those are the heads of those 12 schools that are involved, and they give us the thumbs up, hopefully, every year, which they have done for the last 16 years. And the budget that we have from those 12 schools is £1,300 each. So each school pays £1,300 to have a theatre trip. So we go to our local theatre, the Wyvern, an author visit, a primary transition event, a poetry event, and then all the competitions and a book quiz. So £1,300 from each school sounds a lot, because you've got, what's that, £15,600 by the at the end on that spreadsheet, but it goes very quickly. We find that it's not so much the authors that are expensive, although obviously they're worth every penny. But between the 12 schools, we can even out between the more expensive authors and the less expensive authors, which means that we can, across the board, make it happen and make the pennies count up, stack up at the end of the day. Most authors, I would say nearly all authors, stay within the guidelines of 400 to 450 a day. Some don't, some are more expensive, some are less expensive, but as I say, that evens out. We have our Wyvern event as well, which can be, we look for a big name for that, just because we like the headline, we need the students to be grabbed by that. And they can charge us anything. Our limit, our budget for that is £1,000. That's what we set aside for that. So we wouldn't go above £1,000. Not many big names charge us that. This year we have Jacqueline Wilson, and she's doing it for free, which it's one of those emails you get through and you just think, okay, I'll just go and have a little scream in the corner. Yeah, just overnight accommodation and a day return to Sussex. And for her, the person to come along from Authors Aloud as well from her. So it's very good value for money for each school. Thousands, as I said, thousands. We did used to do the head count, but actually it became nearly impossible to do the head count of how many students get involved. How many students would you say, Sarah, are involved every year in each school? Sorry,
it's okay. I would say it depends on the size of school, but if you look at it in year groups, it's in Key Stage 3 in particular. I think that you can have every student in every year group in 7, 8 and 9 have an opportunity to attend an event, or there is an event that they would attend as part of their curriculum teaching. So it's very broad. And certainly in our school, Sarah Kate, who does our in-school author here, she really tries to do a lot of cross-curricular, particularly with the older students, and ties that in with careers. So in our school, we started off with just really ring-fencing Key Stage 3 students because, frankly, it's easier. When they get to exam years, it's harder to take them out of lessons. But because it's got so well established, we've been able to do that just on the odd lesson, just to add this sort of interest around your subject for the authors that are coming in. So we're big year groups, we're 300 in each year group here, so I would think that, yeah, I mean, it's probably just year 11 and half of year 10 and half of the sixth form that won't attend anything, and the Key Stage 3 students will attend multiple. So it's really impactful, and it does cover a lot of students can get involved. It's great.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so our budget stretches a long way, but is per head very good value. What we found in the last couple of years, particularly this year, it is things like the hotels. We do offer accommodation for our authors, and our buses this year are going to cost us £3,500 to take that cohort to the Wyvern, which, when you think we're not paying for the author, that's a big chunk of our budget. But that's, you know, we're all living in this age at the moment, so we do stretch it as far as we can. But unfortunately, it just means that some things have to get cut, and it is always just by the seat of our pants. We're not a money-making organisation. We're not a registered charity. We can't make any money. I have to balance the books every year. We have had a small rollover every year, and the rollover this year we went towards making our new website, because we didn't have much online presence. Although we have, for many years now, we've had the professional look of the logo, which we use on everything. It gets us noticed, and we can use that on our social media sites as well. We mainly use Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is the big one, especially for authors. But yeah, our budget is down to the wire every year. Every year I'm thinking, ooh, can we afford this bit? Can we afford that bit? What do we cut? We're really lucky that we also have 4 sponsors. I would say if you are going to think about doing this, this is a really, really good thing to do. We have our 2 national sponsors through Smiths and Browns. I have a really good link with Browns, and that's because our librarians mainly, and particularly for the Wyvern event, we will buy our books through Browns at a discounted price. They give us a very good discounted price for the authors, so they know that they're going to get a big sale from us. And they sponsor us for the Wyvern competition. We do a competition. We do several competitions, but the one at the Wyvern is every student going will be given a card, and one student in each school will have a particular card, which the author on the stage will then pull out. So when it was Annabelle Pitcher, she pulled out a goldfish. Silence Goldfish. When it was Matt Alford, I think he pulled out Liverpool, I think it was, or Ronaldo it might have been. And those students then go up on the stage. It's a photo opportunity. It means that there is one student from every school that gets their photo taken with the author. So they're very generous with that. Smith sponsor our illustration competition. And that is literally just, that was just a contact we had, and emailed, and they very generously gave us the competition money. Bert's Books is our local bookshop, and he used to be a student here at Dorking, Alex. So he's very, very fond of the festival. He has memories of the festival. So he's, the last couple of years we've got him involved. He comes along to our celebration event and things like that. And Baron Bailey are a local solicitors who we had a contact with, and they are one of our biggest suppliers. They are very generous. They do the book quiz for us. They do the creative writing competition for us. And they give us the money for book vouchers. Actually, they buy the book vouchers for us, and Bert obviously gives us Bert's vouchers, which is fair enough. Our sponsorship money comes to about £800, which is a lot, and we wouldn't be able to run the competitions if we didn't have that. Well, we would, but we just wouldn't have such great prizes, or they'd be coming out of the library budgets. And so that's a really good thing to do if you're thinking of doing it. go out there to your local community. You'd be surprised the mums and dads of businesses that they work in, or partners of people in your school, and they're always looking for a advertisement opportunity. And these logos go on everything. They go on all our literature, all our posters, all the communications home, all our social media sites. And it's not very much money in comparison to them. So really worth doing, and something that we've found invaluable. Okay. If anybody's got any questions, do ask. I can see some questions coming up in the chat, I think. I'm not sure. I can't see the chat as I'm here. So if there's anything, Helen, that I need to chip in with, can you let me know?
I will. I'll keep an eye on it for you.
Thanks. So the author events, I thought I'd just explain how we do it and why I'm the coordinator, and why I think if you want to do a festival with a big cohort of schools, so you might be in a trust, or like us, you might want to do it with your local secondary schools, it's really important, I think, to have a coordinator. It just means that your authors, it is like a big jigsaw puzzle when you're trying to do it, when you're trying to put it all together. But as the coordinator, you are the point of reference. You're the point of reference in the beginning for your librarians and for the author. So they're not getting lots of different emails, and everybody, left hand and right hand knows what they're doing, basically. And I'm just the string that pulls it together. There are lots and lots of emails, I'm not going to lie. I do not decide what the librarians have in their school, though. That is completely up to them. Obviously, some of the newer ones, we have a big spreadsheet as well of past authors who are recommended. I'd say there's not very many that aren't recommended. I've just seen the spelling typo on my thing there of English, so just ignore that. So the librarians basically, so as soon as we finish the first one, our festival, we have our feedback meeting, we take a deep breath, and then in January, off we go again for the next festival. We book things like the coaches and the theatre really quickly, so we can make sure that we're securing the dates. And then the librarians start to look at who they want in their school. They have to choose an author and a primary author, and they do it by all sorts of ways. As Sarah's just saying, I might actually let Sarah do this bit, because I know, Ridgeway, you were just saying about doing your careers with your careers people. I know you're one of the stars of getting it in, how to choose your authors.
So as Kate says, once the heads have decided that they're going to fund it, pretty soon after that, actually, in the week's been agreed, Kate asks us all to submit perhaps 2, 3 or 4 names for our host author in our secondary schools, but also for the primary school author. And for the secondary school author in our school, we always used to have a fiction author, but we have changed that a little bit, actually. In the last few years, we have gone with a non-fiction author, predominantly because the author at the main event at the theatre tends to be fiction, and the primary school one tends to be fiction as well. And if we get any bonus authors, for example, sometimes on the odd occasion, Joffrey has very kindly done a session for us when he's been doing various other things in the festival. There's a lot of fiction or other things going on. So our authors, in the last couple of years, we have chosen non-fiction authors. Now, this has a lot of benefits because, and I'm talking really on behalf of my colleague Sarah Kate, because she actually deals with this side of it in our school with the non-fiction authors, but this is where you can get your foot in the door with the older year groups. So, for example, this year, the author we have is an Everest explorer and has been an adventurer. So that will appeal to your geography classes, your politics classes, your DV group after school. It has a wider specific remit for certain classes. And last year it was similar. We had, or maybe the year before, we had a cyclist, somebody who's very interested in climate change, who had circumnavigated the globe numerous times on his bicycle and written books about it. And he was fascinated because I think he did science, geography, careers. So for the non-fiction authors, it does allow you to get your foot in the door with the older year groups where it is typically harder to do so. That's good for lots of reasons, because it means that the reach across the school is across numerous disciplines, across numerous year groups. So the impact is greater. Schools, even though they sign up for this, they do want value for money, and they do want a big exposure to their students. you know, they absolutely do. So that's how we do it here. For our primary school author, we typically go with a fiction author that is popular. And when we're looking at them here, we do try and get somebody who has a slight entertainment bent, if that's the right word, because this. Putting it bluntly, the children sometimes come to school 45 minutes before the event actually starts, and they're in year 5, so they're at the 8 or 9. They're quite wiggly on their chairs, you know, and it's a long time for them to sit. So when the actual author comes on, it is really important that I think it's important that it's quite lively, it's quite interactive, because they've sat there and had to behave themselves for quite a long time before this actually happens. So that's the parameters that we kind of use here. But we also use recommendations from our colleagues in other schools. And we have a look at the list that we've had in the past about what we've done, so that we try and have some sort of a rotation on it as well. So there's no right or wrong, and you have to put several names in, and sometimes it takes quite a lot of inquiries and hard work on Kate's part to actually just find somebody who's available during that week. And so we have to be flexible, but that's why we put several suggestions in and why we choose the people that we do.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I always choose my author because usually so one of our authors from our tutor reads. So I try and get somebody who, as well as the workshops or the assembly type talks, they can also go into the tutor group who are reading their book. That is a magical moment when you get well, I had Christopher Edge last year, I've had Anthony McGowan before, I've got Annabelle Pitcher this year. They go in and they read the book, their book, to the tutor group. So I always try and choose my author based on that. So yeah, people choose it for all sorts of reasons. And as Sarah said, there's no right or wrong. It's then my job to try and track that author down. Sometimes the librarians have found a contact. Sometimes it's easy through Authors Aloud or Speaking of Books or Authors Abroad. That's a nice, easy check. We can do that quite quickly. I've contacted authors on Twitter. Authors have contacted me on Twitter as well because they've seen about the festival. They've also heard about the festival. Geoffrey is always saying very kindly that the festival is talked about. It's a small community, the author community, and they do talk. And when names start to get known for coming along, there are some faithfuls that come nearly every year on a rotation around the different schools, but we do also try and have new authors. We've got Sophia Ahmed this year and Jennifer Bell. They've never been before, but we've also got people like Ellie Fountain and Jenny Platlin who we've had before. And they're coming back. Sometimes it's a couple of years in between, but they're always, usually, if they can make it, very pleased to come back. I have stalked authors at book signings before. I'm not ashamed to say it. I've queued up with all the children before, and that's how I got Christopher Edge last year. I just couldn't find a contact for him. Actually turned out to be an Authors Aloud after all that. But yeah, I went to a book signing. I know other librarians have done that as well, to get a contact for an author. And you have to hold your nerve. As Sarah said, it does sometimes take a really long time for authors to get back to you. Authors Aloud, and Speaking for Books and people like that, obviously they have a network that will get back to you quite quickly. But the authors themselves, sometimes it can take a couple of weeks. They're busy, they're not at home, they're on tour, they've got a new book out, they're on school visits. Sometimes they don't check their emails to the weekend. So you do have to just hold your nerve with it, and don't be too impatient. Don't send another email just yet. There's one piece of advice I would give is hold your nerve and just be quite relaxed about your interaction with the authors. They do, if they can come, they love to come, and if you can afford them, then it'll work. But it sometimes does take a little bit of relaxed emailing just to make sure that they do realise what the event is that they're coming to. The other event that we do is, and now my thing is not going to work, is our partner primary event. So as Sarah said, As well as the author coming along, we do have a Key Stage 2 author to host as well. So all the librarians in their secondary school invite their partner primaries. So it can be up to, well, I know I have about 200 students coming from primary schools around and about, and people, I mean, some of the schools have far more than that. Most of at my partner primaries can walk here, but I know Sarah's school have to put on buses to get them in. The festival don't pay for that bit. The school pay for that bit because they see that as good investment for their school. Really, it's a good transition event. And again, me as the coordinator, I email the authors agreed dates, fees, accommodation, and transport, how they're going to get here. Librarians send out save the date messages to their partner primary heads. If they've got a contact in transition, they'll contact them. And it's actually can be one of the first events that Year 5 students come to big school for, which is a really lovely thing, that it's such a positive thing that it's an author event. And then the events happen in the school. There's one thing I should say, I should have said this when I was doing about the budget. I deal with all the invoices. So how we run it here is the festival account is within our school, and my finance department do all the invoices for it. It just means that we know where everything is. The invoices aren't scattered across the 12 schools. It's a good way to keep it all under one roof, as they say. And yeah, once I have introduced the librarian by email to the author, I then leave them to arrange the details, and then the events happen in the schools.
Kate, can I just add something about the primary school author event?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the primary school author event, like Kate said, it's a transition event in essence, really. But the thing that I would say about it is that we all work in, I think everybody on here is on a secondary school. The primary schools work quite differently, and it took me quite a number of years, if I'm being absolutely honest, to get my head around how they work. You don't get replies very quickly from primary schools, and the best people to speak to in the primary school is the office manager or the person who's in the office, because they are the ones that know the teachers, they know the year groups. Oh, somebody is in primary, lovely. And primary school teachers are teaching all day. They don't, as it are in secondary, but it seems more intense somehow, and their ability to get back is quite different. Also, if our festival is in November and it gets agreed earlier in the year, we send the save the date, but I think it's taken me a while to recognise that come September, you might be dealing with different school personnel that for whatever reason has not been revealed to you earlier on for lots of really good reasons. We try here to make it easy for the primary schools, because I think, they're up against it, aren't they? It's really difficult. We send them, we make sure all the kids have a free bookmark. It's relatively cheap, and like Kate said, it's good marketing. We send them the poster so that they can display it and put it up on their screens around the school if they have that. But I think the thing that the primary schools most value is that it's really silly, but we actually send them the draft parent permission letter. They have only got to sort of clip it and stick it onto their headed notepaper. It's just one less job for them to do, and it does really help. For us, we're in a semi-rural, semi-urban area here, and we have some primary schools that are affiliated to us that only have 10 in a year group. They're really quite small rural primary schools, and they're probably 10 miles from here. And they have to use either our school minibuses, which is a nightmare, or they have to ask the parents to drop off. And it's very difficult to get the primary schools to commit for just like 3 hours. So what we've started to do here for our schools that are located on the periphery in rural areas is speak to the transition coordinator, because I know this time we've got 2 schools that will stay on in school after the author event has finished to do other transition activities around the school with other members of staff, so that the schools can make a day of it. Otherwise, it's quite disruptive in many respects, I think. So that's how we do it here. I think making a day of it, if you can, if you're getting other people involved, is a good thing to do.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. So the other things we do in the week are the book quiz. You can see the lovely Joffrey White there, who is online with us today. He has been our quiz master for the last couple of years. And we have the book quiz. We end the week with a book quiz. All 12 schools submit a team of bookworms. We try and have 2 from year 7, 2 from year 8, and 2 from year 9. And we have all sorts of rounds. Baron Bailey sponsor that for us. As you can see there, we have a shield, and they have certificates, and they get their book vouchers. So that is the picture of them at the event. At the end picture is our celebration event, which I'll just jump to. We put on a celebration event a week after the festival, where we invite local dignitaries, like the mayor and all our sponsors, if they can come. Bert's Books comes with a bookstall. We have all the work on display, all the competition entries on display, and the students come along with their parents, carers, friends, family. The more the merrier. We've had it in several different locations. We found a lovely location now. It's called the Patton Church, which is ideal. It's a lovely event, and it rounds off the festival really nicely and acknowledges all the people that have been involved in it. And the parents really love it as well. So that's just I've shown the 2 pictures there because that's the same students. That it was actually children in need that day. That's why they're in non-school uniform. And then there they are in their school uniform, proudly holding their shields next to the mayor. So the competitions that we run, apart from the book quiz, are we split them into years 7 to 8 and then 9, 10, 11 year groups. And we run a creative writing competition where you have to have 500 words entries in response to a photo prompt, which we all kind of choose between us. We have an illustration competition where we choose a passage from the Carnegie winner, and they have to come up with a piece of art for that. That is judged by the lovely Steve Anthony, who then not only judges them, he then, as the prize for all the winners from each school, is to go to a creative an illustration workshop with him. It's one of those money can't buy prizes. He's so gentle with them and comes up with storyboards with them. And these are students that don't really realise that their art could take them somewhere. And we all agree it's one of our favourite parts of the festival, isn't it, Sarah? So Steve does that for us after the festival as well. And we also have the poetry competition. We have the poetry event, the Year 7 poetry event. You can see Ash Dickinson there, who is a slam poet. Ash has been doing the festival for years and years. I think he's worked out that there isn't anybody under the age of 25 who, unless they weren't in school on that day, they wouldn't have seen him. He sees every year 7 group in the 12 schools in the week. So over 4 days, he visits 3 schools a day, and usually does a haiku presentation with them. And so you have the whole of your year 7 in the hall, and you tell them they're going to go into a poetry event. They most of them look a little bit suspicious, and then Ash walks out, and magic just happens. And then you have hundreds of hands up for them to go up on stage to read out their poems. So if you can do something that every school, the reason I love the poetry event is because every school does the same thing. Ash is the common denominator, and so you know what you're going to get with every event, and so every school has the same opening with that. And so he judges the poetry competition for us, and we always go on the theme of National Poetry Day. So it was Refuge this year. We are trying something new this year with the competition, and the illustration competition entries are all going to be displayed in our local central library. Steve Anthony is actually the patron of the Swindon libraries. So we have agreed with Swindon Libraries that we will display all the work in an exhibition so the wider community can see it, and also students can take their parents to be able to see it, and it's lovely to have it publicly displayed for the students. So yeah, that's the competitions that we do. We do, like I say, have sponsorship for the prizes for that as well. I just thought I'd do a little last thing just about things that make your life easier. um, Sarah already mentioned actually making life easier for your primary schools, anybody that you have that you come into contact with. It's really important that you have direct contact with your author. Once you've had your contact into introductions, your author's allowed, or somebody like that, the agent, ask for an email, because there will be things that you need to know directly from the author. Some authors like to do workshops, some like to do a big assembly type presentation, some will only do 3 a day, some will only do 4 a day. There's lots of different things that you need to know from your author, basically. And like I say there, it's the little things that will make for a happy event. If you have a happy author, it makes for a good event. So booking taxis, arranging lunch, finding out and sticking to dietary requirements. Did you know Ashley McGowan doesn't eat mayonnaise, for example? It's really important, because if then, you know, it sounds like something really minor and little, but it does make all the difference. And selling their book and having their books in your library, probably that's why you've chosen them, because you know they're popular in your school. But like I say, a happy author makes for a good event. My last bit of advice, sorry, I feel like I've talked at everybody, but is ask, ask and ask. You just never know where it might lead. I sometimes send an email off and think, oh, I'm being a bit cheeky there. But then before you know it, you've got Jacqueline Wilson as your headline act for free. People like Joffrey have been so supportive and do things for us, and then are our quiz master and do events. We are just, authors are, on the whole, lovely people, and the reason they do it is because they know who their audience are, and their audience are your students. So ask, ask and ask. You just never know. And when you get that email back saying yes, it's a wonderful feeling. So that's really all I've got to say, is ask, 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 and you just never know. And honestly, if we can do it, anybody can do it. We've been doing it 16 years now. I think this is my 6th festival. I took over from Fiona Hardcastle, who introduced the festival originally. And it felt really daunting. I thought, gosh, how am I ever going to get to grips with all this? But you do, and you can do it. And there's lots of support out there. Do it. And I've just put some photos on there of all the authors that we've had over the years. I mean, this is a handful of people, but you just never know who you might get. We've had people like Anjali Ralph before, and Lauren James, and well, you can see who's there. I'm preaching to the converted there. Phil Earl, Matt Oldfield, and Holly Smale, and Chris Riddell. Is the list is endless. This is just a snapshot. So I think, have you got anything else to add, Sarah?
No, I've covered it all. I'm sorry, you've covered it all. I haven't covered it all at all. You have. I think Kate's really clear in her communication. I think everything she said I would absolutely endorse. I think it's sort of slowly. It just builds up over the year, doesn't it? But you learn how to do it, and it does seem daunting, even when you've done it a few times. It does, but it does work itself out. And if all you need to, you're all librarians, so you're all inherently organised, and it's the organisational skills that lay the groundwork for getting a festival, whether it's a day or a couple of days a week, your school, or you're joining with other schools in your trust or your locality. I think that pull it together, says she who doesn't do most of it, because Kate does it. So.
I'll just say,
got any questions? Because
I was just about to say, if anyone wants to ask Kate or Sarah any questions on what they've been doing, absolute inspiration, just brilliant. I think from our point of view as an SLA, it is just an opportunity to celebrate what you guys have achieved. As you say, so many good applications for all of our awards, really. And we always say maybe there's a reluctance to put yourself forward because you think, oh, that's blowing my own trumpet. But this is about celebrating the sector and the impact it has on students, having those authors in front of those students. What a brilliant experience for them. So
I suppose that's the thing I didn't say really, is that the knock-on effect of having the festival is there's all sorts of statistics to tell you what author visits do. We all know what an author visit does, but if you turn it into a festival, that you're sharing with other people, and you can have a buzz around your school. You can have posters that other staff are involved. It becomes something we call it Lit Fest. Everybody knows what Lit Fest is. It's what's going to happen. Everyone knows it's going to happen in November. People start to say, oh, who have you got this year? Oh, who's going on the trip? I mean, the Jacqueline Wilson trip, I think we've had fights from the staff to go on it rather than...
I can imagine.
But the knock-on effect, and you can't keep the books in the library, even if you don't sell the books. The books go continuously out of the library after that. They go, oh, that was that author we saw, and it does make such a difference, a really big difference.
Well, thank you. We've got in the chat a very exciting question from Verity, because she's been asked to start up a new literature festival with her Multi-Academy Trust. Really quickly, just 2 top tips for someone just starting out. What would you say?
You need your SLT involved. So if you're in a MAT, go right to the top and get it right from the top that this is what's going to happen. This is what your budget is, what schools, the schools that are going to be involved. Try and make sure there's a librarian in every school as well. If it's librarian-led, then you have a point of contact. Otherwise, you're trying to, you're not quite sure who you're contacting all the way. So really work out who your contacts are going to be, who's going to decide on what authors are coming and what your budget is. And then get it get it in the school calendar and have it SLT agreed. That would be my crib sheet on it. But Verity, you're very welcome to email me or Sarah along the way. And just, if you sort of think, oh, I wonder how they do this, then please do. You're very welcome to. We don't know the answers, but we might go, oh, we tried that and it didn't really work, or this definitely works, or whatever. I know, Sarah, because you are in a MAT, aren't you? I'm not in a MAT yet. And you are finding that possibly that might be something that your MAT are looking at.
Yes, I don't know for sure. I think we've had a few logistical difficulties this time, which is just life. Schools change, don't they? I think it's something that MATs will increasingly want to become involved in, because once one thing starts, everybody sort of seems to want to incorporate it. I would say, I'd endorse what Kate said about the calendar, is make sure you get it in the calendar. And this is from personal experience for us this time, is make sure you know what space you're going to use, and make sure when it comes to the calendar, you're a primary school, Verity, aren't you? Certainly in a secondary school, we have to be very aware of assessments and where they are and where the space is being used. That's something that's really impacted us this year. I imagine in a primary school, your space is a little bit more flexible. I don't know, but that's something that we've had to really deal with this time. It's taken quite a lot of time that we've not come across before, but it's all been overcome. It's fine. So I would say that it's definitely calendar, and it's know the space that you've got available. I think just because it's in the forefront of my mind just right now for what we're sorting out at this end.
Well, I hope that's useful, Verity.
Yeah, very. Thank you very much.
Oh, good luck with it, and thank you both again for sharing that. I do really want to make sure that we've got enough time this afternoon, though, to thank our sponsors. We can't run these awards without our sponsorship. And for the Enterprise Award this year, we were delighted that Reading Cloud sponsored. We did have winners, Colham Manor Primary School, who we're celebrating what they did. So the Community Award is obviously things that happen in the community, like the Literature Festival, whereas the Enterprise Award is more about those one-off projects that schools want to celebrate what they've done. So I'm just going to pass over to Stephen, if that's okay, from Reading Cloud, who can then explain, what the benefit to them is of sponsoring the awards and what they mean to them. So,
yeah,
thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Helen, and congratulations, Sarah and Kate, on the Community Awards. I've enjoyed listening to every word, and I think it really relates to a lot of things that we're trying to achieve at Reading Cloud at the moment. Obviously, quite different. We want to have technologies that embed a reading for pleasure culture in school, and I think what better than having the authors and having those in front of the students and driving it in that way, and certainly giving us food for thought. We want to be involved because we share that love of reading and that enjoyment and those activities and those initiatives that that schools put forward in these awards. So that's really important. We're now owned by the Parent Pay Group. We've gone from simple library management, and we're on a bit of a journey now into how we engage children more in literacy and reading, and how we get more footfall in a library, how we drive that reading for pleasure culture. So there's a look out for a huge amount of things that we're going to be doing that's going to be involving parents, because it's going to be talking about the impact on well-being. And the key stakeholders and in developing children's reading in the school, which both personally and professionally I have a real passion about, as Helen knows. Those are the reasons we partner with the SLA, and we celebrate the initiatives that they run, the awards that they have. So really proud. Congratulations to Colham Primary as well, of course. Unfortunately, they're not here, but I think it's been great listening to those initiatives today, and certainly I'm taking something forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it. So as I said before, sorry, I just want to take the spotlight away. Sorry. Where's that gone? There we go. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to encourage anybody watching to think about what enterprise or community award project they could put forward for this year, because the nominations are open. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you've got somebody else to nominate on your behalf. You can, big yourself up, but just consider that as something to contribute to the sector. It's about all of us as a whole sector encouraging reading for pleasure. And so if we don't shout about it, somebody else might not. So I would encourage you. I shared earlier on in the chat the link to complete the award forms. So just anyone that you can think of, do spread the word for them. And we can hopefully next year celebrate some more fabulous initiatives. So really appreciate everyone's time today. It's great to listen to it all. And as we said, if there's any questions at all, do get in touch. But I hope you found it useful, and we'll see you all at an event soon. Thank you.